What is going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and it is time for another Friday Night Live. All right. Man, it has been a minute, hadn't it? Oh, my goodness gracious. All right. So, Alex, what's going on, my man? Greg Kamuth, what's going on from Michigan? Andy Leonard, what's going on, man? I am sorry it's been a while. We're going to let the numbers build here just a minute. And then we're going to get rocking and rolling. Got a giveaway to do that I'm behind on. I got a bunch of things, but I've got plenty of excuses. So don't worry about all that. I'll let you know what's going on. Excuses are like buttholes. Everybody's got them, and they all stink. Oh, Nathan Cornett from Kentucky, what's going on? Tommy Corey. He said, ha ha, I had this on in the background when I was doing HW. Give me a heart attack. Oh, that's funny. Hey, Joe Nee, what's up, man? Other than spring, yes. Harley Wills, Brett Coleman, Greg, what's going on, man? Samuel, Justin Blois. Fall fishing time, favorite time of the year. It's actually probably my favorite time of the year too. Man, we're going to talk a little bit about that. I've got a video I want to do. I did a tackle Tuesday or a little 2-minute tackle tip last year about a video that I want to dive deeper into that I'm going to film this next week. So I'm not going to give away anything, but it's got a lot of fall tricks that I've learned over the years that really work. And so we're definitely going to do all that. I'm back in the seat. The KBF National Championship is over with. I told you guys, and I've said for years, if I ever get into serious tournament fishing, I will stop making videos, and I just proved it. Didn't do it on purpose. I had plenty of videos that I filmed along the way. I just didn't edit them, and my son didn't get a chance to edit them, so that's what we're working on right now, and all these videos are going to roll out over the next few weeks. But I still am going to kind of mix in some fall videos as I make them. But yeah, it's been kind of crazy. KBF National Championship was a lot of fun. Thanks KBF and Chad Hoover for putting it on. It was amazing. Guntersville was amazing. I learned a lot of things about me, about how I need to change my approach to tournaments, and that kind of stuff. I finished 43rd out of I don't know how many, 300, 400 boats in the national championship. I think I finished 24th in the challenge championship. I just never got a big bite. I fished completely clean. I didn't lose any fish. I had some short strikes, but nothing where I had it on the hook and it flopped off or anything else. I fished completely clean, which is one of the things I really was hoping for. Just never got a big bite. And that's what I needed to be able to win or be able to place even higher. I needed at least 2, maybe 3 big fish. So, but anyway, so I learned a few things. I don't need to pre-fish so much. I'm going to limit myself to no less than 3 days of pre-fishing and no more than 5 or 6. Anything more than that, I just confuse myself and I get to know too much and I don't hone in on anything. Now, for the second major tournament in a row, the last one was the Invitational, I found a winning school of fish. The Invitational, I found a winning school of fish and I shared it with the guy who won. The national championship, I found a winning school of fish, and I shared it with the guy that came in second place. Congratulations, Jackson. Jackson's a 17-year-old kid. He found the big fish spot before I found it, and I let him have it for the 2 days I was in the area. I just kind of caught satellite fish. I blocked a couple of other anglers, or tried to block a couple of other anglers from getting to his spot because I wanted to respect that and really wanted him to win. And he came close, but he came in second. So, Michael Moon, I'd like to thank you and your dad for letting me use the RV. I will. I'm going to make good, and we're going to go fishing some more times. I'll call you a little bit later on next week. But anyway, I did pretty good. I'm happy with it. I'm going to fish a little bit more tournaments next year. We got some really cool things coming up in the future that I'm going to announce later. But first of all, now that I got about 150, 160 people on, I want to announce the winner of last month's Stuck on Fluke giveaway. Now, the Stuck on Fluke giveaway is simple. You go to my website, you buy a $5 sticker, you stick it on something, you take a picture of it, put it on Instagram, and hashtag Stuck on Fluke. And then let me put that up there so you guys, there we go. use the hashtag Stuck on Fluke and then tag me in it, and then I will go in and search and randomly pick a winner every month. That winner wins a $50 Tackle Warehouse gift card and a $50 gift code to my website to go buy Fluke Master stuff, which is pretty awesome. And then next spring, probably the end of May, I'm going to take all the winners from all the months, tie them all together, and throw them in a hat, and or not tie them all together, put the names all in a hat and draw a name. And then I'm going to come to your hometown and pick you up, and we're going to go fishing for 1 or 2 days. So that's kind of how it works. So the winner of last month's, my phone just crapped out on me. There we go. Last month's Stuck on Fluke giveaway is SM Bama Boy. That's not a horrible picture. I mean, it's a horrible glare, but SM Bama Boy. I will, if I don't message you, message me on Instagram, and I'll get you the coupon code, which luckily I already have. It's been kind of, I've forgotten, and anyway, it's been difficult getting those codes. So I've got a code for you. I've got and then I will mail you a $50 gift card to Tackle Warehouse. So that's kind of how that's going to work. Congratulations, brother. I appreciate it. I hope you don't. I see you're in Texas. At least that's where you sent the picture from. So that's a good thing. And you're probably a Bama fan since you said your name's a Bama boy. But that's all right. We'll beat your tails this weekend anyway. But congratulations, brother. It's awesome. Like I said, you guys can enter that. It's a give. I'm gonna do a giveaway at the end of every month, except for this past month because I didn't have Friday Night Lives. But anyway, anybody joining me from my podcast, welcome. Thanks for listening. This Friday Night Live is rebroadcast on podcasts, every one of them, as far as I know. So I just use the website Anchor, and it just puts it on all of the podcast sites. So anyway, all right. Let's see. Andy Leonard says, I like Jackson too, but I wanted you to win so it would launch me too close to the top of the fantasy kayak tournament. Yeah, dude. I tried. I went for broke on the last day, and I actually had a better limit the last day than the first 2 days, but I just went fishing. What I should have done, and the thing is, I found a mega school, and when I find a mega school and it has big fish in it, I just want to stay there and find those big fish. And first morning, it was super foggy. We couldn't see very far. My son was filming me. I started out on the outside of this grass flat, which is a giant grass flat that I have history in. And I didn't catch anything for the first hour. So I started to move shallow. And as the fog cleared, there was Jackson setting the hook on about a 20-incher in the spot that I was going to where the big fish were. And he caught, I don't know, 90-something inches the first day, and he set on that spot. And I got to talk to him. And I said, look, dude, I'm not going to fish there. I'm not going to fish your spot. I'm going to fish around it and up shallow. And I respected that spot. And I knew what he had because I'd fished there before over the last few years. And it was just a unique little spot in this big flat. And it just the way it was. It was fun to watch him catch him, though. He was pretty excited and very mature about it. So let's see. I have regionals tournament on Lanier. Any tips? I haven't fished Lanier in a couple of years. I try to stay off of it because a lot of those rich kids with those wakeboard boats have a problem with kayaks. And I've actually had a couple of buddies of mine recently get tossed out of their kayak from wakeboard boats doing donuts around them, trying to sink them. So I stay away from Lanier. In a kayak, in my big boat, I get there about once every other year or so. So it's been a little while. Linda Legg, I have no clue what you're talking about. Did your son get a tryout with the Atlanta Braves? I have no clue what that's all about. But fall fishing, the bass should be shallow. They should be pushing back in the backs of creeks on reservoirs. If they're not on a reservoir and they're in a pond or anything else, they're just going to be shallow up in the shallow cover, eating bait fish. And the best thing to throw are moving baits. Lipless, square bills, spinner baits, chatter baits, paddle tails, flukes, you name it. I mean, they're pretty aggressive, and that's what my video is going to be about next week, is really being aggressive with a couple of certain baits. So Let's see. Is too many tournaments on a lake make it bad for fishing? You know, I'll let's talk about Gunnersville for a second. So the week before the tournament, the national KBF National Championship, the Elite Series had a tournament and they struggled. It was hard. That Gunnersville gets beat up because so many people travel to go fish it. The week or the 3 days of the national championship, I think we caught like 7,000 fish out of all of us. There were multiple limits. I culled every single day. It was just there were tons of fish and people were still catching big ones. So I don't know what happened with the elite guys. I don't know what the difference was. When they were fishing, I was pre-fishing and I was catching fish. So what they were doing and what I was doing was two totally different things. And the other guys that were pre-fishing that week, same thing. They were all catching fish and the elite guys were not per se. They were fishing. They were just fishing different, I guess. I don't know. But tournaments, if you have a lot of tournaments, like in the spring when they're spawning, it can affect that year's spawn, depending on the size of the fish and that, or size of the lake and that kind of stuff. So, man, I can't believe it's been 3 weeks since I've had a Friday Night Live. I'm so sorry, guys. Goodness gracious. I just was always doing something during that period of time and was not able to get home. So Chris Fatser says, should I fish at 5:30 a.m. till noon or noon till 5:30? And what should I throw? Topwater search baits or drag a worm creature bait? Don't drag anything. Flip to cover, like have a Texas rig with a little creature bait on it and flip to cover as you're working along the shallows. But throw moving baits. Topwater works well. Buzz bait's one of my favorite fall baits. Whopper plopper if you want to, that kind of stuff. Or you can just go and just throw a square bill or spinner bait or something like that. 5:30 to noon, probably. I don't know. I always have when the water's cool, I always have better luck later in the day. But most of the lakes I fish, or several of the lakes I've been fishing lately, are Florida strain bass, and they don't like to be cold, so it usually doesn't warm up until the afternoon. A northern strain largemouth, you can probably get away with starting early and fishing, but I don't know. It just all depends on your water clarity or water temperature and stuff like that. So, oh, how long do those schools of fish stay there? They stay there as long as there's bait, as long as there's food. The place I was, it was it was a large bay off of a main creek, and it went way back, and it was a huge grass flat, and it went from 8 feet deep to 2 feet deep, and it was 300 yards long. Giant grass flat. But every year there's a school of fish there. This year there was just a substantially larger school than what there normally is, and they were moving in and out depending on what the water level was doing. So they would stay there, like I said, just as long as the bait are. If the bait aren't there and the bait move or they go up the creek further, the bass are going to move with them. So, oh, Donald Toma, I gotta bust your nuts for this. What is the best color topless crankbait for pond with no shad? I'm sorry, dude. Topless crankbait. Now I've read it all. All right, so I know what you mean. What's the best color? Lipless crankbait for pond with no shad. I still think a chrome bait would be just fine. Trying to think of anything else. I would just chrome and black back, chrome and blue back. If it's got a little bit of dirty water, I would go with like a sexy shad color. It still kind of looks like a bluegill, and it's a reaction bait. So they see it coming. They don't have time to really get a good look at it, and they jump up and grab it before it gets away from them. So I'm still going to throw the same colors. So Mark Mead must have seen my Instagram post today. No more turkey and bacon grease. I was cooking bacon, and my wife had a package of turkey bacon, and so I took 3 slices and threw them in the bacon grease and posted on Instagram something about, is it wrong to cook turkey bacon in bacon grease? It was kind of funny. Hey, Fluke, what do you tie on during a cold front, and where do you target? Let me think. In the fall, when a cold front moves through, Typically there's a lot of wind involved, in my experience, and it usually muddies up the water. I'm going to go, oh, excuse me. I'm going to go look for, um, I'm going to go look for places that are out of the wind, places that are near current. So if the wind's pushing current, but I usually go flip boat docks and I work things really, really slow. I will throw to timber and wood and stuff like that, and rocks, because they tend to hold their heat a little bit longer. But I'm going to work super, super slow. So, and then I don't have a whole lot of high expectations for a lot of fish, but you can catch them. Do they go shallow at Rocky? Yes, they do. They do. I would have a buzz bait in my hand right now. I haven't been there. I'm Jordan's going to go tomorrow. I've got to rebuild a front, some front steps on my porch that have gotten old, and so I've got a honeydew list I got to do. What's your favorite square bill? My favorite square bill is a KVD 1.5, but I have a dozen others. You know, I've got the Scamp from 13, which is really good this time of year because it rises really fast, so you can fish it fast through timber and cover. You hit something, stop it, and it comes up real quick, and you can keep fishing it. It just fishes a lot faster, and it's louder, which really works good in the fall. So, but most of the time I'm going to try KVD 1.5, but it's a silent crankbait. So, Susky Talk says he's got a kayak anglers AOY team event in the morning. It's on the Susquehanna. That's awesome, man. Good luck. Have fun with it. Enjoy those smallmouth. Victor says, happy to see you, Fluke. Hope all is well. Yes, it is, man. Doing great. Doing great. I shouldn't have taken 3 weeks off, but that's what happens when I get serious about a tournament, I guess. Joshua, I can't believe you asked this question. Okay. He says, do you have any thoughts on Berkeley Vanish for fluorocarbon? Yes, I do. I used it when it first came out many, many years ago, and it made a lot of lures vanish. It was really good at it. You'd make a cast with a spinnerbait, and it would break halfway up the line, and your spinnerbait would go away and sink down at the bottom. And so I used it for about 3 days and cut it off, and I've never, ever, ever used it again. I'm sure that they've improved it since then because it was a long time ago, but still, it's one of those things where I'm like, nope, I'm not even going to take my chances. I fish Seaguar fluorocarbon. I've been using them for since 06 was when I bought my first line of spool of Seaguar, and now I've been sponsored by them for I guess it's been almost three or 4 years now. So it's a long, long time relationship with them, is what I hope I have. But it's a great line. Is this frog tournament? Is this the frog tournament results? Ray Frazier. I don't know what that means. I did fish the Spro kayak tournament. The video's coming out probably Sunday is probably when I'll launch it. But Strong Arm 6R, I finally made a live stream. Turning on notification works. Yes, it does. If you hit that little bell, it kind of lets you know what's going on. Let's see. Garrett Cromer is asking for airbrush tips for painting crankbaits. He said, I just started to start a business. If anyone's interested. Well, good luck with that, man. It's a lot of work, brother. Wear a mask. Wear a respirator. I lost a buddy of mine that's painted baits for many, many years, and he died because his lungs stopped working. On what day of your pre-fishing do you not use hooks, or do you use a hook the whole time? The last 2 days I don't use hooks, or I bend them out, or I cut them off, or it just all depends. But the last 2 days, I don't want to hook any fish, and so I'll go around and there's several different ways I do it. I like to troll a crankbait behind me with no hooks on it, see how many bites I get. I use a Texas rig that has a little screw lock and no hook. And you know, people think when they see that rig, which I've posted that before on Instagram, and I got ripped because people were like, oh, how many baits do the fish swallow? I'm like, I never set the hook in them. I let them swim off, and then when they relax, I pull it out of their mouth, and I've never lost a bait doing it. So it's a couple of things I do. Doug Stubbs, he says, been way too long, was fixing to have to go to rehab for withdrawals. That's funny. Oh no, Steve Pescatelli. This is Noah Pescatelli kicking their bass TV's dad. Yeah, y'all rip him in the comments. That's a lot of fun. No, I'm just kidding. Steve's a great dude. But welcome, Steve. Good to see you, man. Any advice on catfish baits? The smellier, the better. I don't catfish on purpose very much. Caught a lot on Gunnersville while I was pre-fishing for bass, but don't really target them that often. Is it bad to fish a spinnerbait on a snap swivel? Yes. I use them for easy bait switching. I'm new to fishing, so I oftentimes don't know what to start with, so I use a swivel. I understand that completely. A spinnerbait, when you use a snap swivel, because of the way a spinnerbait's designed, most of them, the snap swivel will slide down the arm of the spinnerbait, and it won't end up on that line tie. On a spinnerbait, you want to tie a knot that's tight, like an improved clinch knot or a Palomar knot. You want to tie that onto that spinnerbait. I always recommend when you get started, first of all, don't use a swivel on, the little snaps that have a swivel on it. Those will ruin the action of a bait and just does not work very good for bass fishing. Plus, it's a weak spot. Use a snap swivel for crankbaits until you figure out what the bass want, but learn how to tie a knot. This is your opportunity to get good at tying knots as you're learning how to fish. Cut it off, retie, cut it off, retie, and learn how to tie knots. I'm at the point now where the two that I use, the Palomar and the improved clinch, I can do it without even focusing on it. And it just takes time, but you got to be willing to do it. So, but welcome to fishing. Good luck the rest of the year and next year, man. Thanks for your comment. Dan Heiser, time of day to catch a hybrid striped bass. Oof, I don't know, dude. What I used to do in the summertime when I lived close to Clarks Hill Lake, which is full of striped bass and hybrids, is I would go out in the evening and get in my boat and motor around a large part of the lake and look for them schooling. Then I would go and take a lead-headed grub, throw through the school, catch a couple, throw them in the live well, go back to the boat ramp, put it on the truck, take it home, fillet them while they're still flopping, and throw them on the grill. That's my experience with hybrid bass. I don't target them very often, but man, they're good when they're fresh like that. How would you target spotted bass this time of the year? Very, very fast is what I do, is jerk baits, spinner baits, small lipless crankbaits, and work don't go all the way back in the back of the creeks unless that's the only place the bait fish are. Stay close to the main lake, hit rocky points and that kind of stuff, but fish your baits super fast. And then once you find a school or a wolf pack of them, you can sit there and fish that area real fast and catch a bunch of them. What area of the lake did you fish? I was in the back of Spring Creek, but never saw you. I never went to Spring Creek. I was in Roseberry Creek is where I was. Matter of fact, I was in the same place I fished the Spro Frog tournament 2 years ago. I was out from there, but I was in the same area. So, do you ever speed up the retrieve of a worm instead of grabbing a moving bait to try and get a reaction bite? Yes, I do. I love to fish, especially in scattered grass. I love to fish paddle-tail worms and like speed worms, zoom speed worms, and I swim them. I put a little 1/16 or an 1/8 ounce weight in front of them, throw it out, and I'll swim them through that grass and get a reaction bite out of them as I rip it through the little pieces of grass. So, wow, I'm way behind on comments. Woo, guys. Appling Heart, thank you for the $5, man. He says, hey, Gene, when are you going to come to Clarks Hill and do some videos? Probably, I would love to do it in the spring because I miss that topwater bite. The old herring spawns so much when it comes to springtime. It just all depends on my schedule. But definitely, if I do come, I'll probably have a get-together at Southern Moon Outfitters there in Augusta. But maybe we make a couple days of it. So let's keep politics out of it, guys. Let's not jump into politics right now. I know the election's close. The one thing I always say is go vote. That's so important. I've never missed a vote since I turned old enough to vote, since I turned 18. So I always tell you guys, I don't care who you vote for. That's not my place to tell you, and it's not my place to tell you who I'm voting for. but go to the polls and vote in person, because the post office is screwed up, and it ain't got nothing to do with politics. It's just that the post office is screwed up. Yeah, go ahead and order a fishing rod. See how many of them come in broke. Anyway, but yeah, let's keep politics out of it. Let's see. I'm going to kind of try to pick a question that's in the middle, because I know I got way behind. Let's see. Where are bass located this time of year in rivers and streams? I don't fish a lot of rivers and streams this time of the year, but largemouth are still going to try to be out of the current in some of the slack water. They'll be up shallow in like backwater and that kind of stuff. Spotted bass will be out close to, and smallmouth the same, will be out closer to the current in the rapids, off to the side of the rivers in some of the eddies and things like that. But like I said, I don't have a lot of experience this time of the year in rivers. I'm usually sitting in the back of a creek on a big lake. Good question, because this is really a huge part of my pattern during the national championship. It says, how do you adjust when the water was down and you were catching them, but it comes up and they disappear? So what happened, and Gunnersville is huge for this. A lot of people don't pay attention to what the water's doing. And so the day I found that school of fish, the water had been falling. They were draining the lake a little bit to get ready for the hurricane or the tropical storm that was going to come through, so they had enough area to hold water. So they drained the water. Well, all the fish from the shallow area, the 2 foot or less that were under the grass and in the mats, moved all the way out to the outside deepest edge of that grass flat. And they hung out there, and there were a ton of fish there. I caught a 21.5-inch fish in practice, stuck it back in the water, and hoped and prayed they would still be there. On game day, I did not notice that they had stopped dropping the water. I thought they were still edging it down, and the bass were going to be out deep. So I went there, but then they published the lake levels a little late that day. And I pulled up on my phone and I looked at the lake levels, and they had leveled them off. And that's when I started to move shallow. And that's when I found Jackson in 3.5 feet of water, catching all the fish. And so those bass had moved out until that water stabilized out to the outside cover. And it was only 7 feet of water. It wasn't like super, super deep. But as soon as that water stopped falling, they can sense it. And they were like, whoop, right back up shallow. And had it started falling again, they would have pulled back out. And that's what they do. If they're out there and that water starts to rise, they are going to move very quickly back up into the shallows. And that's when you grab a moving bait and you go find them. So let's see. Ray Fraser, how can you tell a male from a female? Aside from cutting them open, in the spring, you can tell from how they spawn. The male will be doing one thing, female will be laying eggs, that kind of stuff. Generally, a female is considerably larger, especially an adult female will get considerably larger than a male. A maximum size a male can get, biologists will tell you it's about 4 pounds. I've caught males off the bed, known what they were, that were 5.5 pounds in Texas. So anywhere around there, they're not going to get much bigger. So other than that, it's almost impossible. You got to cut them open. Goodness gracious. Steven Simpson says, fish are busting the top, but don't seem interested in topwater. Suggestions. I've been there, especially in the fall, a lot. A lot of times it has to do with the bait fish size. Typically in the fall, the bait fish are really, really small. The shad specifically, alewife will be really small up north, that kind of stuff. You can downsize it. What I like to do is get a spinner bait with small blades and just run it just barely under the surface real fast. You can use a 1/4 ounce lipless crankbait. One of my favorite baits to do it with is a spy bait, and those are expensive, and that's why I usually don't recommend them. But when they're doing that kind of stuff, a spy bait is a sinking hard bait with a prop on both sides, but I don't let it sink. I throw it out and reel it just barely under the surface, and it gets them to bite. And they're not very big, but I've been in a spot on Clark's Hill where there were thousands schooling, and it wasn't anything in the boat I could catch them with. including a little drop shot worm that had eyeballs on it, looked just like the fish, the bait that they were eating. So, all right, I'm gonna skip down a little bit. What's my square bill combo? I like a 7:3 to 1 gear ratio reel because I tend to fish them a little fast this time of the year. Medium moderate action rod, unless I'm fishing grass or I'm fishing super aggressive, and then I bump it up to a medium heavy moderate 12 to 15 pound line. So who just donated $20? What the crud? Bobby Augustine. What, man? Oh, thank you for the $20, man. I really appreciate it. So see what I did there? 2020, $20.20. I've lingered long enough soaking up information without showing my appreciation. Any idea on how to approach the Savannah Rapids during the fall? Oh man, I'd love to come fishing with you. Savannah Rapids, I'm searching for smallmouth, dude. I'm literally going to throw some aggressive baits. I'm going to throw square bills and jerk baits and spinner baits, but mainly square bills, depending on the water clarity, because I know it can get muddy sometimes. So make sure that you have either a black and yellow, a chartreuse with a black back, or a for the muddier water. But other than that, throw shad colors and just work them in those eddies super fast, a lot faster than you think you can. But if your bait starts to roll up on its side, slow down until it stops. That's one of those things, but just work it through those areas, cover back and forth as much as you can. And once you find an area where you catch 2 fish in an area, stay there and soak that whole area up, because there's going to be more than 1 fish in that area of the lake, if you understand what I'm saying. So thanks again for the $20.20, 2020, brother. Appreciate it. David Carlson. Hey, Gene, thank you for the jabberjaw that you gave to me. I haven't caught anything on it yet, but hope to catch some big ones. Man, I caught some giants in practice on Gunnersville. I went up this creek way up north, was going to start there, and come to find out through word of mouth and seeing the people that were there was going to be a lot of really good hammers that were going to fish up there the opening day. So I didn't, and I changed my plans. I don't know if I should have or shouldn't have, but I ended up doing it. But man, it catches them, dude. It really does. Let's see. Jason Childs. I'm not much of a carp fisherman or much of a catfish fisherman. I know there's some channels out there that talk about catfish, though. Jordan King. What colors are best for murky water and also clear water? I got a video about how to choose baits or bait colors, but I'm going to go through the kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Murky water, or 1 foot or less about a visibility, I'm using solid colors. Hold on a second. I got a hair in my mouth. Got solid colors like a sexy shad, or something that you hold up and you can't see through, basically. Super clear water, I want to use clearer colors. I want to use as natural colors as I possibly can. And I might fish them a little bit faster for crankbaits. For worms, same thing. If I hold it up to the sun and I can't see a light through it, it's good for murky water. If I can see light through it, it's good for clear water, all the way up to kind of murky water. So just play around with it. The colors that I typically always have are black and blue for muddy water, green pumpkin for almost every watercolor. I'll have red bug and June bug. Red bug is kind of a clear water bait, and June bug is good for murky to muddy water. So those are the 4 color soft plastics I almost always have with me somewhere. So what if Mr. Beast gives you 200,000? I'll probably give it away. So that's what I did with my stimulus check this year. So anyway, fishing a small reservoir in North Carolina, graft bait fish balls suspended at 10 to 12 feet in 20 feet of water. Any suggestions on lures? Bait fish balls suspended in 10 to 12 feet in 20 feet of water. Any suggestions on lures? Square bills and flukes did not produce any baits. Don't throw towards the bait fish. So think of a bass as a deer hunter. When we deer hunt, we find this place where the deer are going to be traveling through. We set up a stand up in a stinking tree. We hang ourselves up in that tree for a little while and wait for the deer to come through, and we ambush them. This is what bass do. If the bait are in 10 to 12 feet of water, I'm going towards the bank, and I'm going to graph and look in 10 to 12 feet of water for stumps brush piles, points, drops, any kind of cover, a grass edge or something like that. And I'm going to fish that because the bass are there and they're waiting for those balls of bait fish to swim past them, and they're going to come out and they're going to eat them. Very, very seldom, except for spotted bass will do this a lot, but very seldom will bass get underneath the school and chase them around. Bass are lazy. They sit there and wait for them to swim by. So it's not about what you're using, it's where you're fishing. Move out, find the cover in that depth of water and fish that cover and the bass will be there. So let's see. Oops. Michael Stoffel, thanks for the $20. Golly, you guys. Woo, you're awesome. On a clear, I really appreciate the donations. I really do. He says, on a clear water big lake, when the sun first rises and it's windy, should I try finessing first against rocks and shallows and covers, or should I focus on drop-offs and deeper waters and faster moving lures? Shallow, use faster moving lures. This time of the year, grab a buzzbait. Dude, I'm going to have a buzzbait on until the sunlight hits the water just about every day in the fall. Whopper plopper works really good, but it works the best when it's super windy. So if there's a lot of wind that morning, throw a whopper plopper. But most of the time, there's no wind in the morning. Get a buzzbait out, throw it all the way to the bank. Sometimes if I can get it there, I'm going to lay it up on top of the dry ground and drag it into the water and start working it. And the bass are going to be super shallow. So you want moving baits, you want them shallow in the morning. And then as the sunlight hits the water, the bass will typically do one of two things. They'll move closer to some type of a cover that has shade in it so they can hide in it, or they're going to move a little bit deeper. But you can probably they're probably just going to move to the outside ends of like the brush piles and the laydowns, or if they have grass, they're going to move out to the deeper grass. So let's see. Aaron Candigan says, if you had 4 rods, you were fishing in a grassy pond. The grass is low at the middle of the pond with a kayak. What would you throw in the fall? If you had 4 rods, you were fishing in a grassy pond. Frog. So a heavy, fast action rod. A fluke. So I'm going to have that on a medium rod, or medium fast action rod. Gosh, what would be the other ones? A spinner bait. So medium, heavy, moderate, and a buzz bait. Same thing, medium, heavy, moderate, or medium, heavy, fast. So those would be the 4 for just about any time in the fall, especially early to mid fall. So let's see. Crap, I was going to read a comment and it just disappeared. Here it is. Hey, Fluke, missed a lot of spots on jerkbait last weekend in a tourney. Got frustrated. We're pulling off good new hooks on the bait and rod and reel. Confident in setup. Any tips? So a lot of times, I'm fortunate to have a lot of rods to choose from. And there's one rod that I always have with me when I'm throwing jerkbaits. I may not throw jerkbait on it, but I try to have it somewhere where I can get to it. And it's a super limber, medium, moderate rod. Cashin makes one, and I can't remember what the numbers are, the model number, but it is a rod that is super light. I wouldn't throw a square bill on it. I wouldn't throw anything else on it. But if they're taking a jerkbait and you're losing the fish on a jerkbait, 9 times out of 10, your rod is a little too stiff for the bite that they're giving you. And so it allows that hook, them to get a better hold on that bait before the hook gets set into them. That's typically what I do. Another thing that you can do is just, instead of a nice, a fast hook set, lean into them. They bite, you try to get yourself not to jerk the rod, but just kind of lean into them and tighten up your rod and then kind of shake it at the end and you'll get the hooks in them. That's my thought. That's what I think you're doing, is they're just not getting it good. So Adrian Warfield Fishing, man, thanks for the $5. It's nice meeting you at Gunnersville, and Damien. Can you explain your pre-fishing process? Whew. After the national championship, see, what I did with the national championship is I thought that I needed a lot of days to pre-fish. And I knew in my head that a lot was going to change. And I wasn't going to make any decisions until the last day or the next to last day. And so I don't know why I spent so much time pre-fishing. So from now on, no more than 5 days pre-fishing, no less than 3 for any tournament. I think I can do a whole lot better then. I don't confuse myself and that kind of stuff. Typically what I do is I spend the first 2 days looking for bait, looking for food. I'm not making a lot of casts. I'm just covering a lot of water. I may have a spinner bait or something, or crankbait, something I'm fishing really fast. In kayak tournaments, I typically will take a lipless crankbait and troll it behind the boat as I'm moving around, and they'll hit it at 4 miles an hour. And so I've got the motor on high, I've got the motor guide on high, and I'm just trolling behind the boat and feeling the bites. The next to last day and the last day of practice, I'm going to take the hook off and just feel for the bites. So there's a lot to it. I need to make a video, but I need to really hone in on how I pre-fish, because I just did the wrong thing for the national championship. So we'll definitely have a video in the future on that. Thanks for your $5, man, and thanks for the comment. I really enjoyed it. Swampland, brother, thanks for the $20, man. I haven't been able to fish or make a video in a month. All these hurricanes destroying the South. You ain't kidding. I've been wanting to get down to Point of Shane and do some redfish fishing, and they keep having to pack up and move because the hurricanes are coming. It's crazy, but I think those times for this year are over. I did take my kids down to Florida and did a little hurricane cleanup just before the national championship. We cut trees off of houses and patched and put tarps over roofs and that kind of stuff. My boys learned how to tarp a roof. It was kind of fun. Let's see. XP Maida, I guess. Big G, my reservoir opens after sunrise, and we have to be off the water an hour before sunset. Where should I start the day? Always seem too late for top water. Still grab a buzzbait. You'd be surprised. But what I would typically do is, I don't know what all's under the water, but a chatterbait would work really well. But you still want to cover water. You still want to go looking for the bait fish. The bait fish are going to be shallow. Look for them ticking. If you don't have shad, you're still going to have a small fish shallow like bluegill and that kind of stuff. But go into a big bay in the lake. Just go into a pocket or a cove and work every pocket and cove, and you'll run into them, dude. They're going to be there. But a spinnerbait or a chatterbait and a square bill are my 3 favorite baits to cover water. My lake here, it doesn't open up till sun up, and it closes at sundown. They will literally have a bullhorn yelling at you if you're not packing up your truck at sundown. So I get you. Let's see. Goodness gracious. I'm trying to find the comments you guys are talking about. Sonar phone, fish finder, or wait for an entry-level Humminbird Lowrance. Get a sonar phone. I've got one over here on the shelf. I can't reach it, but it's over there. It's what I recommend if you guys want one that you can just use while you're bank fishing, that kind of stuff. Sonar phone's probably the best one for that. It's only like $100, dirt cheap, and the image that you get, it looks like a fish finder. It's not like a video game, so you learn what things look like under the water. It's not the best, but it's for me, it's the best for you to learn and be able to soon upgrade to something like a smaller Lowrance or Humminbird and that kind of stuff. So let's see. Oh goodness, I don't read very fast. It's not that you guys are overwhelming me with questions. I try to read them, and I don't read them too much. Let's see. Let's do this real quick. All right, I think I took care of that. We'll see. Hey, did you catch Chad Hoover's video on the 2021 season, and what are your thoughts about it? Yes, I did, Damien. It's something I'm not really going to talk about much here. I'm excited. I'm going to fish a few of the trail events. I'll definitely be down in Florida for the Invitational again this year. So we'll see. I'm about to get a truck, so I'm looking forward for a first boat. I know for a first boat, I need to do modifications. What should I be looking for, and what should I be fixing in it? It all depends on what the boat is. I really can't tell you what to fix until you get a hold of the boat and see what it is. My first boat was a 14-foot Grumman aluminum John boat with an 8-horse tiller on the back, and all I did was put a small deck up front and a pedestal seat that was solid mounted to the boat so I could lean up against it. So during heavier winds and waves and stuff, I wouldn't fall out of the boat as I was fishing standing up. That was the best modification I could do, and it wasn't that big of a boat. So that would be an option, but make it safe is the biggest thing. Let's see. Heading to Gunnersville tomorrow for a week. Any tips on where to fish, where the fish are at in the transition? Dude, find a creek. It doesn't matter which one it is. Grab some moving baits and start halfway back in the creek and work your way along the bank until you run into them. They're going to be there. That's how the tournament was won last week, and I'm sure the fish have pushed further back in the creeks by now. So start halfway back and start running the bank and stay 0 to 5 feet deep, and you'll catch them. You'll run into them. Buzzbait was working really, really good for those guys, but again, that all just depends on the conditions. So, holy cow! Abe Sinclair says he caught a 17-inch crappie today on a spinnerbait. I've caught 3 17-inch crappie in my life, dude. That's so awesome. I still haven't hit 18 inches. That's my goal. That's my bucket list fish. But a 17-inch crappie is huge. That's so awesome. 50-degree days and 50-degree water. How do you fish that? I slow down. The 53 degrees. Now, we did an experiment when I used to guide on Richmond Mill Lake. There we fed feeder trained bass twice a day with 50 feeders on this lake. There was actually about 30 that were bass feeders. The rest of them were bluegill and baitfish feeders. So about 30 bass feeders. So we got to see how they fed, and we put a thermometer at a couple of the feeders that was tied into the office. And at 53 degrees, the feed rate drastically dropped. The bass weren't feeding heavy. They didn't come bust the surface around the feeder like they normally do. That 50 to 53 degree mark is serious. They slow way down after that 53 degrees. So 50-degree water, you're going to be throwing a jerk bait, dragging a jig. You're going to be fishing a lot slower than you would in any other warmer temperatures. So Scott Goldjord, man, thanks for the $10, brother. I appreciate it. He says, how do you know what strand of bass, northern, southern, are in my area? Move around a lot due to military. Dude, I understand that. Most of the lakes, mid-Georgia, north, and then in Texas and California, you'll know by just asking whoever's in charge of the lake, because a lot of those lakes have been stocked with Florida strain bass, and the Florida strain bass is not a very aggressive fish, but it's a very fast growing fish, so they get bigger. And then if you cross them with a northern strain, which is a more aggressive fish, you get a fast growing, aggressive fish that's easier to catch. So most of the time, a lake is going to, anywhere mid Georgia and north, is going to be northern strain largemouth. Like I said, unless they stocked Floridas in it. The Tennessee River has Florida bass in it. Most of those lakes do. A lot of the lakes in Tennessee have recently been stocked with baby Florida strain bass. So in several years, they're going to have big fish in a lot of those. But you just have to kind of do your research. So James Larry says, thanks for all your hard work in videos. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Woo, my wife fixed a dang good dinner tonight. Can you tell? I'm having a hard time digesting it. Do you have any LGBTQ fisher things that you look up to? I don't know any. I've met very few fishermen that are LGBTQ, or I just didn't know. So I don't judge people on anything like that. I really have never. I'm probably the most non-judgmental person you'll ever meet. Top 3 lures for Florida, please. June bug and black and blue are the 2 colors. Cinco, a cutter worm. It's called a rage cutter worm, or something similar would be the Zoom speed worm. And third one is going to be like a rage bug, some type of a flipping bait. So if you don't have or know feeder creeks, rivers into a lake or a dammed lake, how do you find where the bait fish go? Usually you're going to have something that puts water into the lake. And usually if you don't, it's a very, very small lake and it's spring fed. The bass are still going to push shallow. Typically, like in natural, let's talk about natural lakes. That's probably the best thing to do. So natural lakes up north that are just, they're like glacier lakes and things like that, that don't have large tributaries pumping into them. The bass will just go shallow. The bait fish will go into pockets. They'll go into bays. They'll go up and around points. And I just go into the biggest bay and I start there is typically what I do. So you're looking for pockets and bays. So let's see. Ray donated $5 for stopping the madness with a swiftness. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Let's see. Semi-auto. Sorry, I'm advanced Bama. Gonna beat y'all tomorrow. Work on your English, my Bama fan. Goodness, it's gonna be a good game. I'm kind of excited about it. My son's more excited than I am, but he's a sports freak. So, what type of tackle storage do you use for hard baits, mainly on kayaks for protection? I use just Plano tackle boxes, just the Plano brand. I've got some. I just ordered some of the new Edge boxes that are, got the really cool crankbaits, crankbait boxes and stuff like that. So I can't say whether I like them or not because I've never used them, but they look great and they look like they're going to be really good for storage. But I just use standard little waterproof the blue waterproof Plano boxes that have the 3 latches, 2 on the side, 1 in the front. And then I just limit the number of crankbaits that I have in there. They're not big. They don't hold a whole lot, but what I'll do is I'll open up 3 empty boxes and I'll start filling them with the baits I think I'm going to need. And that's usually all I ever use. So ever fish Lake Seminole? Only once with Chad Hoover to film a TV show. And that was the only time I've ever fished Seminole. I caught some good fish. It was early in the spring though. Let's see. Oh, goodness. All right. Let me get rid of him real quick. Any tips for fishing Clear Lake and any tips on fishing a small high cover pond with, I don't know if there is fish. Woo, that's tough, dude. I'd have to see your lake. I'm sure there's some guys in here that have some good comments about it, but typically Clear Lakes just go light line, go natural looking baits, smaller baits, and you'll do just fine. I don't know what you mean by high cover pond. If the water's high, the bass are going to be super shallow. So, what fishermen have you met that you personally were starstruck? Not very many. So before YouTube happened, I was a moderator on Bass Resource, and I was a moderator for 10 years. And so I got the opportunity to interview a lot of those guys, a lot of those professional fishermen. I can't think of any I was starstruck with, but there were some that I really, really enjoyed talking with and interviewing. Mike McClellan being one of them. Timmy Horton, what a great guy. He's one of them. Him and I have become somewhat good friends. But none that I can think of that I was super starstruck with. But again, I've over the years I've gradually gotten to know several of them, so it's a little bit different, I guess, for me. John, thanks for the $20, dude. He said, "What is the most important bit of advice for a beginner who has honed in his skills on topwater, and that's all he wants to fish, but other times it gets hard. So, what is the alternative?" Dude, I completely understand, and I'm sure there's a lot of people on here that understand that once you get hooked on topwater, it is hard to throw anything else, even if they're not biting. My second one, what I would do is get a Texas rig, get some type of a creature bait like a brush hog, a zoom brush hog, or a rage bug, or anything similar to that, and throw a Texas rig on a 1/4 ounce weight. No need to go any heavier. Get a 1/4 ounce bullet weight, put it in the front, and just start throwing into cover, letting it sink down, hop it around. Watch my videos and other guys' videos on how to fish a Texas rig. There's a lot of them. I got one old one that's excellent, but just start working it around. So then you got two different styles. You got a style that will work when they're in the mood to not chase, and you got one that'll where they're in the mood to chase. Now, if they're not hitting topwater, a good alternative is something like a spinnerbait. You know, a small spinnerbait would probably work really, really good. But Texas rig is what I would recommend you start with. And again, man, thanks for the $20. Y'all don't have to donate. That's so awesome. Appreciate it. I'm looking for an all-around moving combo. I throw mostly clear mostly chatterbaits. Why did I ever say clear? I don't know. I'm looking for an all-around moving combo. I throw mostly chatterbaits, square bills, spinnerbaits, and swim jigs. What rod would you get, and what reel speed would you pair it with? Reel speed 7, a 7, 7.3 to 1, 7.5 to 1. 13's got the new 7.5 to 1s that are awesome, but something like that. The rod. Gosh. 13's got one that I'm trying, and I kind of wanted to keep it a secret for a little while until I really figured it out. But I really have started to enjoy throwing swim jigs and square bills and buzz baits and spinner baits on it. And I think it's called a medium mag. And I don't know what the mag stands for. I don't know. They send me rods, and I just looked at, and it's just got more of a backbone. It's a little bit stiffer than the chatter crank rod, but if you're not into 13 rods, I would really look for a medium heavy moderate action rod that was about 7 foot to 7'3", because then you got plenty of backbone behind it to set the hook on a square bill, or set the hook on a chatterbait or a spinner, especially chatterbait, spinnerbait, and swim jigs, because they got a little bit stiffer hooks. So that's kind of what I would look for. But a 7.3 to 1 is a good all-around deal. You can slow way down, you can speed way up without killing yourself. So that's what I'd recommend. Any advice for trying to write an article for Bass Resource? Dude, I haven't been on Bass Resource since they banned me years ago. The owner, I don't know what happened. He assumed I was trying to get people to step away from Bass Resource, and I never had any time to do that. So he got paranoid or jealous or something, and banned me, and I haven't been on since. So I don't know. I got no clue what it's even like over there anymore. But the best thing to do is just write it, and I guess just send it to him and try it out, and see what he says. So let's see. Oh, it just jumped ahead on me. Let's see. Nate Green, should we still fish with baits that are mainly used in cold weather in Florida during the winter, or do the bass still bite warmer weather baits and lures? They still bite pretty much warm weather baits. Depends on what top part of Florida. So the bass start to spawn down like in Okeechobee and South Florida in December. And then as the January moves along and February moves along, they'll spawn a little bit further up the state and a little further up, and then just keep they just keep spawning further north as it gets warmer. Typically fall fishing this time of the year in Florida I hate it. I don't do any good in it. I've always tried to catch good fish during this period of time, and it's just hard. I wait for that December, January time frame to go down and go fishing. And then I'm throwing the same things: Cincos, chatterbaits, any kind of pre-spawn stuff that I'm going to throw down in Florida that are good in the grass, because there's still going to be grass there. Florida is just a whole different ball game when it comes to bass fishing. You really don't have a winter, except for like 2 days of cold fronts, and that's about it seems like. So Roland asked me, he says, have you ever fished Hugh M. Gillis in Dublin, Georgia? No, I have not. Dude, I don't even know if I've heard of that one. I don't know why. I know most of the lakes in Georgia. So, it's been raining a lot in Massachusetts. I'm not sure if or how it affects fall fishing. What do you think? It's going to push the bass super shallow. They're going to if the water's rising, they're going to be up on the bank. Water's going to be a little bit dirtier. They're going to be throwing a little bit, brighter or darker colored baits and that kind of stuff. But that's about it that I can think of. I haven't fished Massachusetts in like 2 years, but that's my thoughts. Is that typically when water's rising, you've had a lot of rain, the bass are going to be super shallow in the cover. So. James Larry, thanks for the $20, brother. I really appreciate it. He says, North Georgia, windy and cool. What should I use from the bank? Windy and cool. I'm up in North Georgia, and typically I'm from the bank. I'm still going to throw like a buzz bait. I'm going to parallel the bank a lot. A lot of my casts are going to be standing on the bank, throwing down both directions and out just a little bit. I'm going to be working. If I want to work a worm, I'm going to be working it fairly fast, hopping it and dragging it fairly fast. Fluke will work really, really good. That's what I can think of off the top of my head. But the biggest thing is typically they push fairly shallow. If you're fishing a huge flat, like you make a big cast and your bait it doesn't take very long to hit the bottom. It's usually fairly flat. Then I'm going to fish that whole flat out and just kind of see what's out there. Are there any indicators to be looking for to know when the fall transition is complete? I live on Lake Cumberland. You know what? I don't like the fact that we've started to call it a fall transition and made you think that there's a start and a stop time. Fall transition just means the bass are moving. They stop moving when there's nowhere else to go. When they're typically in man-made reservoirs, they stop moving when they reach the back of the creek. In natural reservoirs, when they reach the back of the pocket, and they stop moving away, they start to move along the bank, and they're feeding heavy. As the water gets cooler, I'm going to throw more jigs and crawfish looking baits when it gets down to the 50s and that kind of stuff. The indicator, typically when that water temperature gets 53 degrees or colder, the bait fish will start to move back out, and they'll start to go deeper, and they'll move back out into the main lake, and I'm going to try to follow them out. It's hard to do because a lot of times it happens really fast, and I typically will fish the outside cover and the outside drops all the way out of the creek, and just try to follow them the best I can. So 50, take it as you'd like. 53 degrees and colder is typically when the fall fishing stops or slows down, and they start to move out, and it starts to become more like winter. So let's see. Spencer Bump, thanks for the $10. I was trying to answer a question. Let me find that question here in just a minute. Any advice for bass fishing moving from California to Tennessee? Oh, wow. The biggest thing is to understand a bass is a bass is a bass. The only thing that changes is the bait fish, depending on what lakes you're moving from. So You're going to see a lot more grass, I think. It just depends, dude. Just go fishing. You'll find out that a lot of your favorite baits will work here in the South. So what I always tell people, no matter where you're traveling to, if you go to a lake you've never been to before, fish the baits that you know. Don't try to change and fish the baits that the locals fish. You'll never be that successful to start with. So just take what you know and go fishing. Let's see. Concept A2. Talking about the new 13 fishing concept A2. Good question, Roland. He says, is it able to fish in salt water? And what rod should I use for redfish? Thanks. Yes, it is saltwater rated. The A2, Matt designed it to be as bulletproof as he possibly could. That's why there's a little bit more weight on it than the original Concept A. It's got water channels to channel water away from key parts of the reel. It's got little things around the screws to prevent electrolysis from aluminum being on aluminum, the aluminum screw being on the aluminum frame. It also prevents corrosion from salt. But with any reel, you still want to rinse it off. You know that. You want to rinse it off after you're done fishing it. But it'll be great to do. That's what I'm going to be fishing when I go down for reds. I'm going to have the A2s because I know that Matt really worked hard on designing those. So what baits would you throw post cold front deep clear reservoir? I'm going to throw baits that I can fish super slow. Maybe a jerk bait if I want to move, fish a little bit faster or cover a little bit more water. But typically I'm going to go to wood or rock, and I'm going to flip a bait into cover and work really methodically through shallow cover. So John Lipskin, yeah, don't go back to California. That's too funny. Oh, don't get into politics, guys. Be real careful. But I understand what you're saying. Let's see. Who donated $25? Rocky Top Doc, man. Thanks for the 20. Holy cow. You guys are awesome tonight. Oh, goodness. He says, first of all, thanks for the money, man. Thanks for the $25. He says, Gene, thanks for all the great knowledge you share. Thanks to you, I'm catching more bass. Here's a little appreciation from Knox Vegas. I love it, man. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody else that's donating. That's so awesome. All right, let's go up here and find a question real quick. Spencer, you're going to love Tennessee, by the way. Definitely. Oh, this is a good one. Steven Simpson. This is the reason I hate fishing a Wacky rig Cinco. He says, tips for setting the hook with a Wacky rig. Get a lot of bites, but no hookups. Exactly. So Gamakatsu makes a weedless Wacky hook, and it old school people call it a Cahill hook. Kahil, I think, or K. I don't know how you spell it, but anyway, it's the same design as a bait hook that we used to use years and years ago called a Cahill hook, and it's big. It's a bigger hook. Use that hook. That Cahill style hook hooks the fish better. Excuse me. When you're Wacky rigging, it really does hook them a lot better. So the Gamakatsu Wheeless Wacky hook, probably the best one out there. And the way I learned that is years ago, I was guiding a couple of guys on Richmond Mill, a couple old dudes. They showed up with these Cahill hooks that they had hand-tied weed guards on and everything else, and they proceeded to absolutely destroy the bass and lost very, very few. So I was like, dude, that's what I need to look for. And so that's kind of what I use when I do Wacky rig. But that's what I hated about Wacky rig, is that bait will crumble up on the hook and you'll never get the hook set, or for some reason it'll turn sideways and you won't get the hook set. It's just weird. So definitely look for those. Totally recommend them. Oh, official Lip River. Thanks for the $20 super sticker. I wish I knew what super stickers were. I need to look that up. But I really appreciate it, man. Hold on, I got a dry throat. We're going to go a little bit over time. You can tell it's 1 hour and 9 minutes. But I deprived a few of you for 3 weeks, so I might as well. Yes, Rocky Top Doc, I do. He says, Gene, do you ever nose hook a fluke using screw lock? I do. A matter of fact, let's go back to Senkos. Gary Yamamoto originally designed the Senko to be fished with a screw lock and a nose hook. But I do flukes that way too. I lose a lot of flukes, which I don't like, but the action on a fluke is incredible that way. And it works great. It really does. But like I said, I don't like to do it because I lose a lot of flukes, and I don't like to get those in the bass's gut, and it just causes all kind of problems. So definitely, it's an awesome if you really want to absolutely slay them. Let's see. It's funny how my voice only lasts an hour and then it's done. It's nuts. That's why I usually only let these run an hour. Strong Arm 6R. Can we get a new video on hook sets, different types, and when to use what? Seems basic, but we could all be better. I have one. Go on my channel. Click on the little magnifying glass, the search box that's on my main channel page, and do a search for hook sets or hook sets. And you'll find an old video that I made probably 6 years ago that's all about types of hook sets, and it covers just about everything. So, except for one, I had a time when I was fishing Bienville Plantation with John Cox, the FLW John Cox, and we hit a stretch of water. We were throwing chatterbaits, and the bass were grabbing that chatterbait so hard and clamping down so hard on it that we could not get the hook set. So we had to do a stutter hook set to get the hook in them. They'd bite, we'd set the hook, and then we'd have to do this. So as soon as the bass let a little bit of tension off of that bait, the hook would finally grab. Weirdest bite I've ever had, but it worked. So what did I see from Damien? Damien, what rig plus put on O-ring on it? Wacky rig plus put an O-ring on it. O-ring works great, but the Cahill hook is great, Damien. Fluke Master, you're the best. Ever fly fished off the yak? I have not. I grew up fly fishing, but I've never fly fished off my kayak. I've done it off a boat. Caught some. That place I always talk about, Richmond Mill, is and still is the #1 bluegill lake in the world. And I used to catch 1 and 2 pounders, or 1.5 to 2 pounders off of a fly rod on a big boat, but never did it out of a kayak. So I wish I still guided there. Brent Coleman, that's hilarious, dude. He says, yes, I've been lost without my Friday Fluke Master fix. Y'all are crazy. Goodness gracious. All right, guys, my voice is done. I tried to make it last a little bit longer. I appreciate you. Again, Stuck on Fluke giveaway. Just go on my website, buy a $5 sticker, and you have the opportunity, and put it on something, tag me on Instagram, and then use the hashtag Stuck on Fluke, and you will I'll pick a winner at the end of the month, and you get a $50 gift card to Tackle Warehouse and a $50 gift card to my website, and then you get put in for a drawing next year for a fishing trip with me where I come to your house and we go fishing near you. So I'm excited, guys. But thanks for joining me. Thanks for everybody who donated. Go out and vote. Like I say, I don't get political, but this is the time of the year, every 4 years or every 2 years, really. Go vote. It's so important. Go to your polls, wear a mask, take some hand sanitizer, and don't be scared to go out there and vote. I've voted twice since the pandemic started, and it ain't as scary as people think it is. Just go. Super important this time around, and it's super important with every presidential election, but it's important, guys. Really it is. But like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water. Go out and catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you.